So my name's Grant Paisley. I'm a SQL MVP based out of Sydney. I run a consulting company called Angry Koala. So there's a bunch of really good people helping me do this stuff. So like you guys, I'm on the coalface doing these things. And the first thing I'm going to do is I need a little bit of help from you guys. I've only tried this a couple of times, and what I find is it's just, I like sort of doing things and annoying other people, particularly other presenters. So I need everyone to stand up for a moment. I'm standing up, you guys may as well. Okay, so we've got two halves of the room, which is nicely divided. So this is one half. Okay, very easy. Power. Power. BI. Okay. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to make a hell of a racket. And everyone's going to go, what the heck is going on here? Now, they're going to know what's going on because we're going to tell them. Everyone with me so far? Yep. Now, I just did that complete. If you're facing, yeah, this will work. Okay, so on the count of three, or when I point to you, you're going to call out like crazy, and everyone's going to come streaming in and say, I think this is going to be the best session of the whole day. And it might be, you never know. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Really? All right, let's try that again. You guys better be paying attention. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Better. Hey, guys, come on. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now, people know roughly what's going on. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stamp and create a whole lot of noise, because the louder noises you make, you might get a special prize. Ooh. There's people down the front again. I think they're already coming towards me. Okay, so actually, a little story while you're all standing up. I did this in TechEd in the US, and I said, I forgot the koalas. And there was a group down the front, and they went, ah! I was nearly chucked out because I was chucking droplets, saying they're koala droppings, and it was hitting people in the face and things like machine guns. So I haven't been back to TechEd for a while. This year I'm going back for, anyway. All right, everybody ready? Now all you're going to do this time, this is much easier. You're all just going to yell and scream and carry on, and I'll throw out koalas, and everyone else will be with me. Ready? So we're shouting, yelling, the whole thing. Okay, and actually what I might do, this will be really cool. I'm going down the back. So if someone comes in, there's no one at the front. And what we'll do is you might grab whoever comes in, if someone comes in, we'll take them down the front, and they'll be very confused. What do you reckon? Everyone in on the joke? Actually, I'll start with throwing some things. Okay, 1, 2, 3. There's no one coming in. Why is there no one coming? Yeah, quiet, go away. There's no one coming in. Sit down. Come on.
OneNote window, outline, editing.
I hope they haven't started the recording yet. This is going to be the most boring technical session ever. But you guys will have a good time. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about Power BI, talk about what it's all about, and hoping, if you haven't used it before, I'm hoping that you actually, from here, will start using it. And also those that are already using it, hopefully you'll learn a couple of tips here and there on how to go about using it in maybe better ways. So it's just things basically I've found in using this for a little while, and they may or may not apply to you. We'll see how we go. Oh. Excuse me, sir, did you hear anything? Did you, why did you, any reason why you're here? Any particular? So, are you at the right session? Power BI. Power BI, Power BI. Okay. So, how am I going so far, Adam? He's on his phone, so okay. All right. Any skiers here? where I know we're a little way from the snow. Okay, we've got a few of them. Okay, this is my family. That's me skiing. I wear the hat quite often, even skiing sometimes. And it's quite fun. You get up to the top there. This is Thredbo. And the thing is, this is like your IT department. Right, they've got lots of infrastructure and they're all sitting there, and they can get me to the top of there pretty efficiently. I'll go back down, they come back up. So if you think about the grounds as being where I'm skiing, being the data, I can get up to where the top of where all this data is, and I can move around fairly easily, right? Pretty good. However, if I want to go further than the bounds of where it is, I have to walk. Now you can do that, obviously, and in fact these guys were, these are snowboarders around Gothica. So you can do that, but it's a heck of a lot of effort. So, those who've been doing my sessions before know probably already I'm a kite surfer and do all sorts of goodies like that. So this is a skill that I've acquired. The same way you guys, hopefully been on the data track, have some sort of data skills, yeah? Excellent. So this is my data skills, if you like. But what's interesting, I can take that kite, which I'm now calling Power BI, and I can go up above Thredbo and into the backcountry. Okay? I can just go out, I'm powered up, I'm just, yeah, it's pretty good. Powered up, I'm just out there. All right? And you can just cover huge distances in a day. It's just absolutely spectacular. Okay, so it's all opened up to me because I'm using the kite to actually get me out there. So I'm using Power BI to get out in amongst all of this data. Any questions? So how many snow kiters are there here today? Hey, all right, fantastic. Come and talk to me later. Actually, you have this very, very special gift. No one else gets one of these. So it's going to be a nice interactive session. If anyone has any questions, we'll actually do them during the session. Yeah, that's about it. Just interrupt me anytime. Okay, so the basic format is I'm going to show you quite a few finished things first, so Power BI from a client of mine, and then we'll dig down and actually build some of the stuff at the back end. So if you guys have to take off because you're getting really hungry because of the session before lunch, at least you've seen some of the good stuff. And if you see the good stuff and you think it isn't that good, well, you're probably in trouble. All right. No, we're in trouble. By the way, when you're doing this thing, it's interesting because when you're doing the snow kiting, you do get out and you can get out to a vast amount, probably like 90% of the terrain out there really easily. And we've got more snow than Switzerland. But to get to that last bit, like the top of Kosciuszko and some of those, is actually quite tricky. So having a friend that's done it before is handy. He's actually got across Greenland and all sorts of stuff.
Right arrow.
These sort of things. Okay. That will do for that, I think. All right, so Power BI, the other thing that's going to happen from this session is everybody is going to know what the three components are that are part of the Power BI suite. Can anybody, oh, there's koalas in it. Who can tell me the first component, which is getting the data? Yes. Power Query, so that's query. Now, how are we going to remember query? Well, because I'm politically incorrect, that's obviously if I like other boys. Okay, query. Query. They got it. Okay, second one. So I've got some data using query, and it comes into what? Where does it land? I've got this. How many people here have used Power Pivot? Okay, good. Where does it land? Power Pivot. Okay, Power Pivot. Someone over here? You'll do. I sort of heard you say something vague in the right vein. Okay, modeling. Hang on, is it? My daughter used to do it. So, pretty good? All right, no, not really. Okay, so that's the model part. So you're grabbing the data, you're putting into a model. Okay, now you got it in the model. What are you going to do? Power view. He said it. Yeah, lucky guy. It's hardly any of them, very rare. So Power View. So interesting, you can actually combine all those things together and put it inside of Excel, so you got the whole lot. So that's got to be something like, there's all three. All right, I got one laugh, that's terrible. All right. I know it's been pretty technical so far. But hopefully everybody will remember what the three components are. That's the point. Everyone got with me? Excellent. All right, out of the people here, who went along to Adam's session? Okay, so it's about half. Adam went. Good on you, Adam. So that's about half the group. That's good, because he did a lot of stuff with history and things like that, which means I can skip over some of those things. Where my session is very different, you probably notice it's already slightly different, is that I'm going live against all of this stuff. So that's going to be, we'll all go on that journey together. All right. I'm a fairly excitable fellow. And one of the reasons for that...
Desktop.
I don't know, I feel like I'm hearing voices. Is that I've just spent a couple of weeks over in the US, went to the PASS conference. Who's ever been to one of the PASS conferences in the US? A couple of you, okay. If you ever get a chance, it is well worth it. Ignite's pretty good, but in our area, in the data section, you know, you have, I don't know how many sessions, not that many. Over when you go to PASS, there's like 600 sessions. And it's in Seattle, so you've got the dev team that are actually doing sessions as well. So well worth the airfare to get over there. So I did PASS, then I did the MVP Summit. And it's a new Microsoft in the BI area. We've been swimming around with things inside SharePoint and all these goodies. Now, James Phillips, who's in charge of that area, he's come from a startup, and it's just like you do a couple of clicks and you're away. And it's very exciting. How often are they releasing new features in Power BI? Monthly is correct. Every 4 weeks, once a month. How often are they updating the service, the Power BI service, which is this? Sorry? Weekly. Also correct. Almost reached you too. Okay, so this is the first time we've had a Microsoft BI tool where an end user can really do the reports. Okay, they've been promising us forever. Reporting services, you know, all of those things. But really, you'd have to be a real power user and really a nerd. You have to know SQL or MDAX or all of those crazy things. Now, literally, the end user, power user can do the modeling, but in general, they probably need some help with that. But once the model's in place, the end user can really do their reports. So what happened with this organization, it's a construction firm, and I helped them with a proof of concept, and we got up and going, and I haven't created any of these visualizations. They're all created by the end user. Okay? Now, she's done a fantastic job, such a good job. I said, can I show some of this stuff? She said, fine. And so this is Tamworth Hospital, one of their projects. So what we have here is the costs actual, the adjusted forecast, and the original target over time. So it gives a nice helicopter view over that particular project. And other various pieces of information about the project, including the forecast lost. Now these are tiles that are pinned to the dashboard. So on the left here, you'll see that you've got dashboards at the top, just here, which is pinned from the reports. The reports are the view part, right? It's the Power View aspect of this. And then the data set is really the modeling part, okay? That's where the model is. So they're the three layers. So when I click on this forecast, let's go down, click on the right thing. Forecast product. Why not? Click on anything. Okay, so what she's done here, oh, by the way, if you click on this one, it brings up to the whole screen, which is interesting. So what's happened here is just two visualization, one showing forecast loss for particular areas and one for the profit. So if I biff on one of these, we can see the data that's going towards that. Now, one of the limitations with Power View that I found is we don't have the concept of photographer. Hang on. What was it? Got a view, got to be gay. Now, we need one more. Hang on. So shy. Okay, so you guys have to make me look super popular. All right, so everyone stand up. Now, how do you want to do this, photographer? He's changing his lens. Got to get everyone, okay. So I'm going to be here with all my friends. I better throw some things out because then they get really excited when I throw stuff out. Did you notice? All right. So everybody's gay. So everyone's putting their hands in the air and going sort of like this. Okay. You don't get a koala if you're not gay. Okay, ready, set, go! Hey! Is that enough? All right, you can go now. All right, so MVPs are so shy. It's just crazy. Thanks for that, I appreciate it. All right, so basically the end user has done all this herself in this case. She's put all this together. Any questions? That's pretty well I was going to show this. Oh, enable custom visualizations. Anybody see those in the past? The question was a statement. You were going to make a point about drill downs. Which is true, I was, and I will. In fact, I will do it in a different way. I will show you a completely different report in a completely different system, which is our system. Because I think that'll give you a better idea. Okay. Angry Koala has been doing data mining, that sort of thing, for a long time. In 2004, we released the first case study on machine learning and that actually data mining in those days. And what we're doing here is this is Angry Koala, or my accounts. And what we've got here is the various accounts from the accounting system. I've got 566 that are being categorized as motor vehicle petrol, and here are the transactions themselves. This is a very long conversation to say that we don't have drill through, so what you do is you put the details of what you're interested in a table at the bottom of PowerView. And then literally you just biff on things and you get the response very quickly because it's very efficient at holding all this information, and the user can very easily get to what they're looking for. So what are we looking at here? On the left here is the predicted account. Okay? So it was in petrol, but the machine actually predicted it should be in petrol, so that's great, okay? It was 72% confident, in this case it actually got it correct. Now what's interesting here is if I sort that, and you notice this entry. Oops, clicked it twice. This entry. Vodafone EPB Chatswood, $580. Anyone got a vehicle that'll take $580 of petrol? Do I have a vehicle that will take $800 for that much petrol? No. My private jet. Now we're talking. Maybe if I do even better at these things, I get a private jet to go with my koalas. No, I don't have a private jet. That would be cool. So interesting, it thought that that should be telco mobile. I think it's right and I was wrong. In fact, I know that's the case. Anyone have any idea why, in my wisdom, I put it into petrol? Sorry? BP. Good on you. Okay, so the way I wound up doing my accounts is I get all the descriptions in and I can filter, and we can simulate that in this environment. I don't know whether you're aware, but up in this Power BI land, you can edit the reports. Okay? Bit dangerous because once you edit it here, you don't have the source anymore if you've developed it on site, but you can, and your end users can create their own reports. Once you're in this, we now have the data that's available for this report. And we also have a filter section. So in this filter section here, I've got the purchase description. If I scroll through that, this is like every description in the system, so that's going to take us a while. But what I can do is at the bottom of that is there's an advanced. So I say in my system what contains BP, and I filter that. All right? So now this is everything that's got the words BP in it. So in my accounting system, what I do it by BP and then go select, oh yeah, that's petrol, and show it is. So that's what happened. So interesting, if when we start applying the machine learning and things like that, it'll actually get much better because I'm going to be more consistent in how I put things into places because I'm a little random. I don't know whether you get that. I can be a little random. Okay, any other questions at this point? Okay, so here's a couple of solutions at the other end. So this is with everything in place. All right, so how do we get here? Let's have a look. So you won't show that one first. Actually, I'll show a couple more end products. This was interesting. It's a company that does hearing aids for you, and they have a lot of locations. They service a lot of people, and the government says, "Here, have this shitload of money," the technical term, "and you need to tell us how you're spending it." So what we did was we took all the costs over here in the P&L. And we had, over on this end, we had all the events that take place in the organisation, and we used a Power Pivot model to move the money from here to here. Okay? And you do it by saying, well, here's some relationships between these tables. Well, this is the end of it. Here's some relationships between the external units and resources, for instance. So there's a bridging table that says, here are the relationships. In other words, this lump of money goes to these 3 resources, say. And then you've got a driver. You want to drive it based on time or number of repairs, whatever it happens to be. And so you just break the money up in that and push it over to the other side. And it's all done inside of Power Pivot. It replaced, I think, a SAS system and something else with thousands of lines of code. And so it worked very well. So the result of that is really interesting. The reason they did it is they had to prove back to the government how they spend their money. But what you wind up doing is, because we had to do the cost down to an individual event or an activity, that means that in essence you've now got profitability for the whole organisation. Actually, you don't. You have the costs down to an individual transaction, and I'm saying to them, you probably should put the revenue, because then you'll get profitability. So what you wound up with is this. Because I've now pushed the data for a cost down to an individual activity, and that activity, for instance, has the customer in it, then we now have a per customer cost with all the overheads added to it, okay? And so what you've got here is the various classes of customer, which is adults and children, things like that, males and females, and this is the age. So this is age by that. What else have we got? We've got various locations. So if we look at Chatswood, for instance, anyone know what it's called when you click on one of these and the other things all react? Slicing. Yeah, it's called brushing, because you didn't actually slice it. If I sliced it, there'd be not this under and over indexing here. So one of the tips, by the way, is when you're using measures in these environments is to use ratios. Because if you use whole numbers, as soon as you click on some subset of that, then it's just a smaller number of the same thing. But if you use a ratio, you can see on average whether something's higher or lower across the different groups. Anyway, so there's that. The other thing that's interesting with this is obviously they're doing hearing tests, and your hearing tests over time tend to diminish. So I think the higher the number, the worse your hearing. You can do multiples in this environment. So if we look at, I don't know, Bundaberg or something, then this is everything for Bundaberg. We could look at just hearing centres in New South Wales. And yeah, basically, this is the average age versus the average of this hearing loss over time. There's quite a lot of people that are very young, and that's sort of kids and babies and things in hospitals and things like that. So they've got a propensity to help those sort of people out. Any questions? Oh, where are they? There is mapping in PowerView. And so in this case, let's have a look at South Queensland, for instance. So if you look at South Queensland, this is the location of the clients themselves. Okay, so if I now look at a particular hearing centre, say Maroochydore Hearing Centre, okay, then what we're seeing here is the locations of the people, obviously most of them being in this area, okay? But quite a few, and if we hover over it says how many. So the 72 people came from 4558, but in fact some of them think it's so good up this way that they're coming from Victoria and everywhere else. Any questions? There's koalas for questions. Okay, so how do we build this? Actually, this tool is so good, it is so good, you could even do go-kart results. So I'm a member of the MX5 Club, and we had a friendly race, which was not as friendly as it could have been. And what you'll see here is this is the overall result. So literally you just pull the data in, put it into this tool, so we're in PowerView itself. If I expand that out, one of the things you'll notice, this is race 1 and race 2, okay? Now, race 1 and race 2, you'll see there's actually quite big differences in how people went from one to another. Now, where am I in this? I don't know. Second, there. Oh, even I did better. Cool. The reason I went, oh, even I did better, is I cheated. I actually did a session before everybody else started. And I reckon this guy called Mark Burry did the same thing, right? Because that's just too even. So, and interestingly, if we look at the race overall, and then you can click sort of where I am, you can see this, you know, this is the overall lap times from 41 seconds down to 36, and this is the second race, so we got a lot better. And the guy that won was just insane. He was probably also half my weight, so there you go. Any questions on other uses of Power BI so far? Everyone seen enough of the end product to get a reasonable feel for what's possible? One person says yes. Okay, the question is that in Excel? Yes, sorry. So let me show you that it's in Excel. Okay, all I've done is I've hidden the tabs. To get Power Pivot in Excel 2013, you actually enable the .com and you get Power Pivot, and it gives you Power Query by enabling that as well. So they're the two add-ins into Excel 2013. So they're built in, you just have to enable them. In 2010, it's a free download. Yeah? Any other questions about where it sits? Good question. Okay. What else do I need to show there? What we're going to do is we're going to go inside the actual tool now with another demonstration. Okay, this file, if you were quick, you would have seen how large it was. Okay. That's 240 megabytes. I'm opening a 240 megabyte Excel file, and it's ATM, well, I hope I'm opening it. It's an ATM transactions. I think it's nearly half the ATMs in Australia for about a 7-month period. Okay, and I've got it sitting inside of Excel. Pretty slick. Let's have a look. Okay, so Power Pivot, manage. So this is really a separate program. So there's Excel, here's Power Pivot. Okay, back in Excel land, we had a tab with information about the ATMs, including, for instance, the nature of the business, maintenance zones, the important thing being a key that this is the identifier for that ATM, okay? So then, once something's a table in Excel, you can biff on this guy, which is add to data model. That links it into your model. Now, the interesting thing about this is if you make changes and things in Excel, it'll automatically flow straight into the model. Sorry, into the model, okay? All right. Once it's in the model, you've got a series of sets of data, and let's go back into here. So that's where this ATM tables come from. I've done the same with a date table, and the transactions themselves have come from a SQL table. And to get it into here, what you've done is you've got from data source, so you've got various places you can get it from. In this case, I went from SQL Server. I said localhost, localhost. I don't need to, need to pick a database. That'll do. Click next. And I'm going to select from list of tables. And any particular one you select, you basically select it. You can preview and filter that. So I don't want those columns. In fact, I'd suggest just unselect everything and just select the columns you need. In fact, there's one thing that you take away from this session. It is when you go in and you bring data in, just bring the columns you really need. Don't take the default and bring everything in. Do you think there's a reason it's called columnar storage? Because it's stored per column. So the more columns you have, the more room it's going to take up. What's the main, actually I'll go into this in more detail later, but the main thing that's driving the size of your model is the number of unique values of a column and how many columns you have, but mostly the number of unique values within a column. So just don't bring everything in. Also, it's a lot easier to use if you don't have all of this extra information. Okay? So you pick what you want, click OK, click Finish, and that would come in. Everyone happy with that? Excellent. So that's how we got this data in. So the story behind this is that the Victorian government were considering removing ATMs out of gambling establishments. And so they said to this company, how much are people spending inside a gambling establishment per day? So what we did is we put it into SQL and we did a group by day. So what we have is for this particular date, for this mask, for this person, this card, for this ATM, they withdrew one and they took out $100. Pretty straightforward? Okay. What you'll notice here is interesting is the number of transactions we're dealing with here. It's 24 million rows. That's a hell of a lot of rows. And I can move through them like it's a few thousand rows. You know, 21, actually, I'll zoom in and do it. 15 million, 8, 19. It's a really, really cool technology. And not only that, I can now sort that. So for a koala, and the answer is more than 6. And those who have seen this demo before cannot give the answer. How many times does someone go back to the same machine on the same day? 16, 23. We've had ranges from 15 to about 20 something. Okay, so who was closest? By the way, I did this demo once, and this guy, all they did, they said, okay, well, that's the size of the slider there. So therefore, I go roughly how many things, but I thought that was very clever. Okay, let's sort it. So let's go sort 24 million rows from largest to smallest. Actually, let's move back to the top of the form first. Okay, it's done it instantly. You'll notice the winner is 27. There was somebody that was very close down here. 23. Ah, there you go. Oh, you think you're close? Perfect. All right. How much did they take out in one day? More than 840, more than $2,000. Because I can read that. Okay, no takers. All right. 1,000. 5,000. Okay. Let's see. Let's sort it largest to smallest. $15,000. Woohoo! So in a 7-month period, there was one person that went to the machine 15 times and took out $15,000. They said, it must be fraud. And this guy said, no. I went, okay. All right, question? No question? I think I'm hearing voices again. All right, so this is the engine part. This is the model part. And in the model part, you have some tables. Those tables have relationships. In this case, this is the transactions we're just looking at. It has a relationship to the ATM and has a relationship to a date. That's it. Also, if we go into here, you can create extra columns and then use that as a calculation. I'll show you some examples of that later. Or you can create measures. Measures are top-down. They're aggregates. So some examples of that, for instance, is the number of withdrawals, which is simply the sum of the withdrawals column. Now, I tend to use hashes and dollars in front of my measures. Okay, the reason I do that is because then it distinguishes it from when you're talking about columns. All right, it also means they filter to the top when you're in the list of attributes that are in your table. So I've found that actually fairly useful. Does anyone else do that? Underscore. Hate underscores. But I shouldn't. But that's for being a good sport. In the current OLAP technology, what was really cool is if you had camel case or underscores and you brought it in, it would automatically replace the underscores and the camel case. And does Tabular do that? No. So I need to talk to them about that. Okay, any questions on top-down sort of calculations? The beauty is once you do that, build up your calculations by doing smaller calculations first, and therefore when you do things like withdrawals per day, you just do the number of withdrawals by the number of days as having these big complicated DAX subjects. The other thing is use divide. You can just use a slash, but if you use divide, the beauty of using divide is it's quicker, and if you divide by 0, you don't get that horrible error. And I don't know about you, but my users go, oh, it's got an error. I said, yes, dividing by 0. There was no budget last year for that. At least this is blank. Now, are you guys comfortable standing up the back? Because you're going to be very uncomfortable by me drawing attention to you. The seats down the front, I guarantee a koala. They're not moving. Do we have to help? Do I have to come up there and get you? I've got to be the meanest presenter in the world. Sorry, folks. You've come up later, ask me a question, you'll get a koala. Okay, so that's top-down calculations. That's using DAX. Now, DAX uses about 60 odd calculations from Excel. So if you know Excel and some of the calculations in Excel, then you're good to go in a lot of these cases. All right? Any other questions? Everybody with me so far? Okay, so I've got the model. So how are we going to look at this data? So here we've got pivot table, pivot chart and things like that. I'm just going to click on pivot table. That throws me back into Excel land, and I'm going to go on a new worksheet. Okay, we now have a pivot table. Now I had one of my customers when I did this say, man, this works just like a pivot table. I said, yeah, it's because it is a pivot table. Okay, it is just a pivot table. It's just working at the model in memory underneath rather than data in your spreadsheet itself. And so she was happy with that. So if we have a look now at the transactions themselves, look at the nature of the business, which isn't in transactions, of course, it's in ATMs. So as nature of business, let's grab one of those measures. Let's just do the number of withdrawals, for instance. We could sort that, why not? Sort largest to smallest. Okay, so it's happily churning away with those heaps of rows and things. And what I'm going to do is just show you, well, I remember to actually change that a little bit. We'll see why in a minute. Now, whenever we wind up an end user building something like this, I tell them to go into the view here and actually uncheck grid lines, formulas. I want to share what's going on, but headlines and formulas. And all of a sudden you have something that's looking more like a dashboard, yeah? So let's have a look at this. Now, those withdrawals, this is the measure, which is the top-down, aggregating it. This withdrawals here is actually the individual. They took out one. They went there once. They went there twice. They went there 27 times. So if I right-click on that, I can add a slicer. Who here has used slicers? They are cool. What else are slicers good for? It's worth a... That's got to be what. So the answer is carrots. So I will send that straight through to the product team, which reminds me, because I was probably going to forget this. When you are in these environments, in particular in Power BI Desktop, which we haven't got to yet, which is the other version of this, actually, your role is, when I'm showing you Power BI Desktop, actually I'll show everybody, just not you, you need to say smiley face, frowny face. You're right? You got that? Excellent. I hope I get to that point. All right, so this is now a slicer. I can change the number of rows there pretty easily. And now these are all interesting. There's our guy. If I click on it, it slices it. Oh, that's a surprise. He was in a hotel gambling. Well, I assume he was gambling. All right? In fact, let me just move that over a bit. If we do any of those, oops, too far. If I do those guys, you'll see hotel with gambling, club with, let's go. Hotel with gambling, club with gambling, hotel without gambling. Hang on. How come we're getting people going back 16 times on the same day, at least, for a hotel without gambling? Shouting the bar is incorrect, and you got too many koalas. Anybody else? Yes?
It's next to a hotel with gaming.
It's next to a hotel with gaming. That's so close you have no idea. It is actually a TAB sitting there. But that's not gaming, apparently. Okay, so really interesting, and I'm assuming you find this a lot with your clients or with your users, is the definitions and where they'll have a department named after a product. Is it, no, that's a department, not a product, and so it's pretty hard to pull these things apart sometimes. A question?
So this is just like cash withdrawals out of it's not purchases.
So the question is, this is just cash withdrawals? Yes, these are ATMs that sit inside of supermarkets. There's one around the corner here. There are one sitting in the gambling establishments. Not that I ever go in those because I know I'd get carried away. But I'm not sure I'd get 27 times for $840 carried away. Because I know they're charging me $2 every time I go there. All right, one of the things you may not be aware of is, one of the things, by the way, is if you're trying to do any work in this, click on the table. It's really handy because then the things you want to use turn up. So if I click on there, oh, now I've got pivot table tools. Isn't that handy? Okay, so one of the things in here, which you may not be aware of, is these OLAP tools, which look really scary. But if I go convert to formulas like that, then this has actually converted each of those cells into individual formulas. And there's the formula, okay? Current member, basically ATM, blah, 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 like that. And why is that cool? That's cool because if your client or you want to build something which says that actually instead of having Club with Gaming there, I want Club with Gaming just there, then you can do that. So let me pull that back underneath. Because this, Club with Gaming, $315. Because this is just individual cells, but it's still hooked up. Okay, it still all works. So if you've got a P&L in particular where a user wants it in a particular sequence and then they want extra rows for columns, things like that, you can do that. Okay. The other thing that's good about slices is you can connect them to multiple pivot tables, which is this report connections here. So you can say, I want it connected to all of these things. You just keep ticking them, and it means you can have a single slicer that affects the whole sheet, the whole report. So as you know, because of my excellent acting ability, we have three things, one of which is the view bit, and the view bit is Power View. The way you get to Power View is you go Insert, Power View. Okay, and it inserts a new sheet. I don't know what this blue line is. Oh, there's a thing that was talking to me. How do you turn that off? Right click down here somewhere. That one? Left. Your left. My left. Close.
And not available. Desktop. Narrator says.
Everyone's laughing and I didn't hear what he said.
On the name of exiting narrator.
Oh, I see. He's talking to me. Is it gone? Closed. For heaven's sake. Jeez, Louise. Okay, so this is Power View now. I'm going to auto-hide the ribbon so we can see that a bit better. And so this is the same data. What you can see is over time, depending on the day of the week, you see there's a few more people taking money out during the week. So if you go to the financial institution, for instance, you can see that really every day of the week it's more. But also the Metro people take out more money per visit than the country folk. And then also, don't do that. Well, that's cool. So, which one of you is controlling my machine? Wow. Okay, someone get me out of this one. That's back again. Okay. Wow, that was interesting. Where were we? Power View. Must be a special feature of Power View. No, we're not even in that anymore. Did it crash? It did. Well, It's not a good demo at least if at least once you don't do this. But there's a good reason that I made that crash. Anyone know why I made that crash? No, the reason isn't so I show you how to use Task Manager. The reason is that this has been the challenge. Oh, I haven't got to the good bit yet. They must be really hungry. Okay, the reason is that as you see, the Power Pivot and the Power View, etc., add-ins into Excel. Excel's actually a really big animal. There's a whole Office team looking after it. And you got the team over here, which is the our users, the Power BI people building that, saying, oh, you know how we did this? Can you make it support that? And the Office guys go, it's so low on our list, you have no idea. So it made it very frustrating for them. And because of that, they actually now pulled it apart, which brings me on to our Power BI Desktop. So Power BI Desktop is a free download. Now, the thing I was showing you at the beginning was the service. Okay, so the service is up in the cloud. So now what we're saying is, how do we get the stuff up there? One way is from inside of Excel, and you actually push it up from Excel. One of the things you can do in that is, by the way, if you put it in an Office 365, Team, Office, blah, blah, OneDrive for Business is the wording. OneDrive for Business, if you put it in there and then hook it up to that, if you make any changes in the model, it'll automatically go up onto it'll automatically go up into the cloud. Okay, now that's good. It's bad because you're inside of Excel and it's not getting revved very often, whereas Power BI Desktop gets revved every 4 weeks. Okay, so it's a download. You can download it from several sites, but if you're in Power BI itself, you see there's the downloads are here. So it's that one, Power BI Desktop. Power BI for Mobile is a standalone program that runs on mobile devices. NASA Services allows you to connect Power BI into your on-site data. The advantage of that is it then looks after the security and things. And you heard it from me first, the next version may contain the connector for cubes. So it may support cubes. At the moment, it only supports tabular models. Okay, Power BI Personal Gateway. So if I just do it from Power BI Desktop and it's sitting on my laptop just here, if I download the connector, then the connector talks back up to the host and makes sure that when you hit refresh in the host, it knows how to refresh. It's got all your credentials and things to access the data and push the data up. Any questions on that? That's a very quick overview of some of those. Okay. Cool. All right. So I've already downloaded it, luckily. So here it is here. And we're going to build something from scratch, from a blank Power BI desktop. Now, if you went to Adam's awesome session, how many slides were there in Adam's deck? 908. 908. Ha! How many were there, Adam? Quite a few, but he went through them really quickly and nothing crashed. So it was very good. I actually got a lot out of it. It was good. Okay, so the first thing you're thrown up with is, okay, you need to get some data. It opens up some of the previous ones. We go click on Get Data. All right, so I can get information from Excel. That's using Excel as a data source, so that's just sucking data out of it, as opposed to grabbing the whole model. CSV files, text files, folders. Who's used folders? Excellent. How did it work for you? What did you use? What circumstances did you use it? Okay, so the comment is that it was a bunch of CSV files that were related that he combined together. Yes. So basically the folder, if you point that at your C drive, it'll go through and index every single file. It'll give you the name, where it is, how big it is, and all that sort of stuff. So you do that, and it brings it all to Power Pivot. It's in memory. You can go looking for big files and where you lost your family's photos, all that sort of stuff. It's pretty good. Okay, databases, all the usual suspects. hooking into all these Azure things, and others where all the action is. These are software services which are already out in the cloud, and literally if you own a Google Analytics environment, you basically biff on that, put in your details, and it comes back and away you go. But we're going to just pull something straight out of the web. Okay, so what I need to do for that though is show you where this data is coming from. Actually, no, I do. Too early. You peaked too early. You saw them both sitting there. There you go. Give me at least once I'm running it and playing then. But that's good, thank you. He's completely thrown me off. What was I looking for? Recent files, desktop, C drive, current demo, definitions. Is it opening? If you click again, it usually works. Okay, so here, don't worry too much about what's in here at the moment, just a whole lot of pages, and I'll go show what the page looks like. So if I copy that and paste it, oh, SQL Saturday, make sure you come along. That's why, there. Okay, so basically, punch that into there, you get this. Parliamentary expenditure or entitlements. Now, expenditure and entitlements to me was a little long-worded, and parliamentarians is a bit long, or politicians, so that's obviously poly. And entitlements, well, that's just too long as well, and perk rhymes with poly, so poly-perk, all right? I'm not saying they're perks, I'm just saying it's a shortened way of using the name. And what you'll see here is this is our gallant leaders and how they spend our money. Overseas travel, etc. So I've got the home base and things like that. And you notice there's a series of tables, Australian Capital, New South Wales, etc. Okay? Everyone happy? So I take that URL there, and I go into here, and I paste it. It reaches out to the net. Hopefully net's going to look after us. And interrogates it and finds a whole lot of tables. Here's each of the tables. Pretty cool, huh? Here's the one of interest around here, Gold Coast, things like that. So let's go with table 3. So we tick table 3. Now if I went load, that would load it straight into the model. But what we're going to do is go to hit edit. So that throws us into the query editor. So this is the Power Query part. And here we are. Now, the first thing we're going to do is rename it to state. And what do we go to do next? We are going to promote the headers, which is there. Okay, so basically that took what was the first row and put it up as the column headers, which is probably a good idea. I could go through and rename all of these. You simply double click and rename it, things like that. I won't bother. But this is, if you haven't used Power Query before, this is why you use it. This one feature to save all features. You select the things you don't want to unpivot, all right? You then go into Transform and you go Unpivot Other Columns. If I get new columns coming in, that's fine, because it's done pivoting other columns. I click Unpivot Other Columns, and you'll notice it's now pivoted what was columns down into rows. Now, how often do your users give you data which has product A, B, C, and D, and July, August, September, October, November for months with all the dates on there? It's not really good for a table structure, is it? So this allows us to twist that around and put it in. Okay, now you'll notice that every time I do one of these instructions, this is M by the way, you don't need to know about M, you just biff on stuff and it happens. And as you do it, you see it's keeping track of what's going on. Now I know that later on there's an error that's caused because when it went through that navigation step, it went source, navigation, which was the third table, and then it went through and guessed all the data types. Now the problem with it guessing all the data types is it actually hard codes the names of all the columns. So I can just delete that step. I don't want to change the type. So literally I can just delete it. And as long as it hasn't broken anything in a later step, it works perfectly fine. So you can see all the steps are going as we go. Also, you can do simple things like, well, I don't really want blank or 0 because there's no point in bringing it in. And there's these crazy letters in there, so we can get rid of those. Click OK. And the other thing is this really needs to be something that we can add up, which means you want it as a decimal number. Okay? So I think they were all the things I wanted to show you. However, because we've got access to the code, this navigation step, I can say, change that to 2, and all of a sudden I'm getting a completely other table. That's pretty cool, isn't it? All right? Nice and easy for you. You do the steps, you can see what's going on. Now, there's more than one table on this page. So what we're going to do, we've got something called state. I'm going to duplicate that. So we've got that twice. This is just there if I want to change the query for some reason. So if I right-click on that and say, basically don't enable the load, that means it won't go through into the model. So I say, that's just one of my building blocks queries. So I can create all these queries and then use them as building blocks for other things. So in this case, we've got this state 2. Now what I'm going to do with state 2 is I'm going to turn it into a function. And the way you do that is you go into View, Advanced Editor, and here's the code that's been generated so far. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, actually, we're going to let src equal to a parameter, table number, and we want to make that a function, which means we do that. Now, because I'm showing you code, this is a level 300 session. Okay. So I can't have complaints about the level of what's going on. All right, in source. Okay, so it gives a little wrapper. I think that's right. Let's see how we go. Look at that. No syntax errors. I love it. Oh, what did I forget to do? Ooh, there's a big koala in this. Sorry? Go back to 3. No? Yay, you got it. I need to put a variable in. I haven't actually changed what the code's doing yet. I've actually said, here's a function I'm passing in this table number where I'm not doing anything with it. Well, I better do something with it. So I copy that and I put it where the number was. Okay? Done. All right, this Power Query knows it's a function, so it's now giving me the option to invoke it. So if I go invoke and say 1, hey, I shouldn't be surprised that it worked. It doesn't always work the first time you do these things. Okay, so that's brought up the first table. Actually, no, it's actually brought up the second table because the first table is 0. Anyone with me? Okay, so that's cool. So now I've got a way of a function that can go out and reach out and get an individual table. How do I combine them? Well, what I do is now we've got this function. Notice I got rid of the calling of the function. So I'm going to do a new query. But blank, so there's nothing in it. And I'm going to, actually let's see, you can see, I'm going to make a list from 0 to 6. Okay? I'm going to make a string from 0 to 6. I'm going to make a list from 0 to 6. Okay, I've now got a list from 0 to 6. Awesome. But lists aren't that useful. What is useful is tables. So I'm going to convert it to a table. I've now got a table with values from 0 to 6. So if we call that table number, okay, then what I can do is here's my table number. This is the cool part. Basically, I add a column. It's a custom column. And what this column is going to be is it's going to be calling that function, which is state, open brackets. What did I call it? Table number. Sorry, start again. Table number. It was, but the column was, I think was that. We'll see it any minute. Table number. By the way, it's very rare that I get these things right, so I appreciate you pointing it out. Okay, see? So what's wrong? Expression F false wasn't recognized. F state. Why not? Oh, it should have been. Everyone knows that should be a function, so I put a little F in front of it. There. There's the state. F state is the function. Enter. Now I've got a query run. Hey, look, there's a table in each row. If I biff on this now and say, yeah, give me all of that, oh, hey, all right, it's worked. It's gone through, it's given us the data for each of those. Now, it's a bit annoying because it says custom homemade, custom whatever, so let's not do that. Let's do it again, but this time uncheck use original column. This is one of the newer things that's come through recently, very handy. So now we just have name, etc. Now we don't want that to be name, let's call that poly. And table number's good. All right, I think I'm happy. I'm going to call that poly perk will be fine. Okay, so now if I close this, I can close and apply, I can apply and close. I'm going to close and apply. So that's Power Query. It's now running off to the website and running that script against the website. So it's running through each of the tables and populating them and putting them in. What do you think? Is that something you guys use? Yeah, give me a round. I mean, that pivot, unpivot stuff, just by itself makes this absolutely fabulous. You can split columns, you can join columns, you can replace values, you can just do crazy stuff. You can make things not come back. Hey, see, if you threaten it enough, it comes back anyway. Okay, so if we have a look now at the table number, and let's make that into a slicer with the smallest writing you've ever seen in your life. That's fine. And let's look at the politicians. We've got this value at the moment, but that's just the column itself. What we really want is a measure for that. Actually, I don't need to go in there. We can now go in new measure somewhere. There, new measure. So our new measure, as you say, remember I use a dollar, so dollar value. Hang on, let's zoom in so you can see. Dollar value equals sum of, now, whenever you're doing columns, try and use the name of the table first, and then, so you use the column name and the value, if that makes sense, so the table and the column, because that'll distinguish it from your measures when you're doing big calculations. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. It's a whole number with commas, that's fine, I'm happy with that. All right, so that now appears in our list here at the top because I put a dollar in front of it, so I can biff on that. And the thing can blow out of the water. Why is that in values? No, in this environment it's just an equals. I don't know, but that's the beauty. It's complaining about the bracket, isn't it? Polyperk. Here. No, I don't know, it's something simple and I'll kick myself later, but that's okay. Because what I'm going to do is move to the end. Cool, 10 minutes. Okay, so using that technique, that other table I showed you with the source information, it had a list of web pages. And then for each web page, it said, well, this web page has this configuration. Now, in their wisdom, every time they gave us a new page with the data, they rearranged the tables for the New South Wales and Victoria and things like that. They just reordered them every now and then. And some of the formats of the tables themselves were different. So what I did was I went through those to work out what was what and basically just looped through the stuff. So the highest loop is what the URL is, and the next loop is the one I've just showed you. So I've showed you the inner loop, and there's a loop that goes above that. And so the result is this. So let's just jump in just to show you without going into it too much. So this is the finished poly perk is actually just putting together all the individual queries that are in here. So let me get rid of that, go away, there you go. Okay, including format 1, format 2, and format 3. So if we have a look at format 1, format 2, and format 3, that's what these guys are doing. So it goes through and gets everything that's in format 1 and then adds the column, therefore expands it out and gives it all the data, okay? So it's exactly the same technique as we're doing before. You'll notice the added custom column is actually passing in the table number and the URL. So it does both. So you can do multiple passes, okay? So that's that. And so we wind up with a list that goes over time. So now we can see that these guys have only had perks for $404 million. So how do we add it? Let's click on Add New Visual. Okay, there's a new visual. Let's drag on the poly themselves. On the axis, why not? And the dollar value. And let's make it one of those. All right, now, let's sort this. Go Tony. $5 million, that's not bad, okay. If I click on him, I can see where it went. So he's been getting better over time. He had a strong start and then dropped away a bit and then really got stuck into it. And this is where he spent our money. And these are the areas, so overseas travel being the highest. And so if I now click on overseas travel for him was the highest, but for overall it was actually not. It was probably the third largest there. And you can see now how people have, where they've been spending on that. Now if I sort this again, actually let's look at one of these. If we have a look, by the way, at something that's been in the paper more recently, hang on, let's unclick everything, come back. Okay, barely registers. Well, that's good. Charter, there it is. Okay, this is how much people have spent on charters. And you'll notice if I sort this, in fact, what I'll do is, where's our friend? Now, I was told I could get into trouble. I don't, anyway, we'll keep going. Let's sort it. That's the best way to find somebody, isn't it? So let's sort it by the politician, and let's sort it in the correct order. Okay, and let's scroll down a bit. Where's the scroll bar? There's a scroll bar. Let's see, anyone know where I'm stopping? A few people know where I'm stopping. Yell out if you see her. I've given it away, all right. Now, I reckon she's got a bad rap. All right. She's only ever done one charter. Look, $5,000 in all these years. Just one. It was just one small thing. One. So, one of the things I was showing you before is these filters. So let's look into this a bit further. And there's the perks. Scroll down, there's the charters. Let's sort that by amount again. She's a lightweight. That's $360,000 for goodness sake. So I think we've been very harsh on the poor lady. Interesting, I think the money's going back, so that'll be a negative number, I guess. It'll go in and then out again. Now is a really good time to remind me about that thing. Smiley face, yeah, thank you very much. Yes, okay, smiley face. Smiley face is just here. Has anybody in this room sent a smiley face, first of all? Smiley faces? I'm a better kiter than I am a thrower, obviously. Who was over there? All right. Who sent frowny faces? It's the same ones. Okay, what happens when you send a smile or a frown? Who knows? He knows, but he's in Microsoft. All right, that goes directly to the team. The guys that are programming this stuff get that message, and they will answer you. So if you want things to happen, that's one way to do it. The other way is to go into the website where all the community hangs out and vote on things that you want. Okay? Now, who knows? This is worth 2 koalas. Who knows the second reason for sending a smile or a frown? I might as well keep them. Okay, the second reason is, as well as sending a screenshot if you want to, it puts in there all the code. Look, there's all the code for the M statement. So if you want to copy and paste that somewhere into another project or something, away you go. How cool is that? Yeah, so you might not actually send the smiley face or the frowny face, but you almost, they'll be going, how come we keep getting this stuff and there's nothing wrong? And they don't say anything, it's just blank. Yeah, if you do that, don't hit the send button. Yeah, it's probably I might hear from this from my friends in Redmond. Okay, I think, how are we going? Oh, I still got 3 minutes. See, we're good. Actually, before I go that, I'll just show you some of the websites I'd like you to be interested in going to. Okay, there's the Power BI website itself. There's a whole community in there. These are the visualizations I didn't get a chance to go through. You'll notice our visualization from Angry Koala actually is in there. So we entered. We didn't win the $5,000. And nobody knows what they're actually for. And I couldn't call them sperm lines. But they are really cool. And there's lots of other things. By the way, what's happening here is sensational. It's based on this technology, which is D3 technology. They've just thrown the whole thing open. And you know, this is amazing. Look, you can try and track a single guy there. There we go. I got him. I got him. Oh. Okay, they're just fantastic animations. And you can now put that animation if you're so, or get a developer to actually put this into a Power BI environment. And people have been doing that, including ourselves. And so that's that part. What else? Collision detections, that's the D3 site. DAX Studio, done by a friend of mine, Darren. We should wear DAX Darren, there you go. I could rename him. If you'd start getting into DAX and doing a lot more of it, go to the SQL BI site. There's a whole lot of templates and things there. And if you use DAX Studio, then it will format all the things for you and stuff like that, which is pretty good. So with that, if I can get out of this. Was that going to muck up this time? No, he told it not to muck up. Okay, I know it said the end, but the end was actually showing the end. Oh, what I need to do now is to go point by point through this diagram. That's all there is to it. That's actually worthwhile having a look at. It's from SQL Chick, and basically it is all the interactions between these, and it looks horrendously complicated. Don't worry about it. Basically, you've got the service in the middle, you put data up to it from Excel or from Power Desktop, and these are just pre-built things that go in there. But that has every interaction that you could want to know about. It's very cool. And this, by the way, is that OneDrive part. Save it into Excel, into OneDrive, sync it up to here. It doesn't sync straight away. It takes about 10 minutes, so you have to wait a little while. Okay? So with that, you saw that. You were very impressed with that. You saw all the money I had. What else did we do? We had no crime, which was good. Happy smiley face. I spoke a little bit about size. By the way, for size, there's a tool in SQL BI as well called VerticPack Analyzer. The trouble is it only works on a tabular model. However, if you've got Power Pivot and you restore it into tabular, then you can point this tool at it. Now, what I want to point out with this is, see this is that model I built, And this takes up 9% of the space is this single field, and it's a client last update date, because I had about 1 million clients. And it's just, I don't even need that, right? So be very careful about what you bring in. Okay, so that's 9%. That's Video Analyzer. Talked about modeling, and that's the takeaway in terms of places that you can go. So, what was the thing from SQL Chick? That was the overview diagram of how Power BI, all the components fit in for the service. So, just data architecture or something, you'll find it. Okay, so with that, hopefully you've all got the picture about what I was doing, and you'll remember what the components are. Hopefully you go out there and use that. If you've received a koala, that means automatically you have to do an evaluation. If you haven't, then come up and see me for a koala, then you have to do evaluation. By the way, I was once, this guy wrote, that was the best session all day. That was just awesome. And he went, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And I shake to the guys, go, look. They went, yeah, I know, but too bad, I can't change it. So yeah, the high numbers are better. If it really is a 1-1, fine, but no, the higher numbers. So with that, thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming along right at the end of the day, and most of you sticking to the end, so it was really good. I do have a stack of koalas, and I'm not taking them home. So I might, if you want one, come and see me, ask a question, or just come and grab one as you come past. So thank you again for your time. SQL Saturday coming up in Sydney and Melbourne, if you're around for that. Marco is coming out. Marco is the SQL BI guy, Marco and Alberto. They're coming out to Australia running some courses, so I'd recommend those as well. And the free ones are on SQL. So with that, thank you very much.